What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, had to talk about this one. Gotta talk about this. You know, um, if you don't know, now you're gonna know. This has been a very, very, very good year for Eddie Murphy. All right, and for many fans of Saturday Night Live, right, this is the night you've been waiting for since Eddie Murphy first left the show. I think it was back in 1984. I think it was. Eddie Murphy is coming back to host Saturday Night Live this Saturday. I'm gonna be watching. Um, it's if you're an Eddie Murphy fan, you are ecstatic, absolutely ecstatic, because this is his renaissance. This period right now is his renaissance, and I'll tell you why. Eddie Murphy has been, for the most part, gone, split, not associated at all with Saturday Night Live for the last 35 years. And, some of it, a lot of former cast members have come back and hosted. And guys who were not really cast members, but have guest starred or have been in sketches. Like Steve Martin technically never was part of Saturday Night Live, but he's hosted like numerous times. Former cast members have come back and hosted. I think Bill Murray has hosted. I think if Dan Aykroyd never came back and hosted, he's appeared in numerous sketches over the past 30 or 40 years. Just this, I think like a couple weeks ago, Will Ferrell was hosted. Of course, he was a long-time cast member. So you've had a lot of guys who've gone on to have productive movie careers or television careers and have come back to host it. A guy that got fired, infamously fired, for telling OJ jokes back in '97. I think Don Omeyer fired him. Uh, 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 um, what's his name? Norm Macdonald. He came back and hosted, like I think 2 years later. You know what I'm saying? But nobody has been as big a star since they've been on Saturday Night Live as Eddie Murphy was. Okay, there's been some guys that have had big movie careers. Mike Myers, Adam Sandler. Yeah, those guys have had some big careers. But Eddie Murphy at one point in time was a superstar. Okay, he, along with Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, owned the box office in the 1980s. And I did a video 5 years ago, I think it was, proving that in the past 20 years, Eddie Murphy has performed better at the box office than Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger since 1994. But they love to rag on this guy. They love to rag on this guy. They like to downplay his achievements. Coming to America is woven into the American fabric, our culture. One of the greatest comedies of all time that doesn't get its just due. I remember back in the mid 1990s when that movie came out, Waiting to Exhale, I think it was called. And at the time, Waiting to Exhale made like $90, $100 million at the box office, and they called it the highest grossing, like black themed comedy of all time, majority black comedy. And then I thought about it myself, and Murphy said it in an interview. So wait a minute, do people forgot that Coming to America had a predominantly black cast? But they didn't want to give Eddie that credit. And his name's been driven in the mud, you know, personal allegations, when some of his movies didn't perform well at the box office, even though he had a string of blockbusters from '80 for all the way. So he was a cast member back in the early '80s when he did 48 Hours. 19 years old. He was 19 years old, 20 years old when he was doing 48 Hours and blew up. Stayed a cast member for a couple of years before he transitioned to Hollywood. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't get the credit he deserved, because if it wasn't for Eddie Murphy, Saturday Night Live would have got canceled. After the golden cast of, Gilda Radner, Dan Aykroyd, John Belushi, Jane Curtin, Garrett Morris, Dan Aykroyd, if I haven't said his name, later on Bill Murray. After those guys left the scene and then these new guys came in, that show was horrible. Saturday Night Live was horrible. Horrible. To the point where Lorne Michaels left. And somebody else came in and took over the show. It might have been Don Omar. Can't remember. But the show was horrible. And they got rid of everybody from that season except for Eddie Murphy and Joe Piscopo. And those two guys, but really primarily Eddie Murphy, carried that damn show for the next 4 years. I think they put Eddie Murphy in so many different, I think for the next 3 seasons, almost every sketch either had Eddie Murphy or Joe Piscopo in it. Or damn near. Because that's how much they was carrying that fucking show. But after he left Saturday Night Live and after he stopped doing, his comedy specials, Eddie Murphy did admit that he developed a phobia. He had a fear, because he had done it so long, he had a fear that he wouldn't be funny doing it or adopting his humor to doing stand-up or updating his stand-up. And he had a fear initially of going back to Saturday Night Live, but what happened was, I think that fear and trepidation turned into resentment and anger. Because what happened was, it was a sketch that David Spade used to do back in the 1990s called The Hollywood Minute. And in that sketch, he would do a lot of, he would do put down humor. He would cast shade at people and shit, but meant to be funny. So what he did was one portion of the sketch where he had a picture of Eddie Murphy. And I remember he said, oh look kids, it's a fallen star. To insinuate that Eddie Murphy's career is pretty much was falling apart. His movies weren't doing very well. That might have been after Vampire in Brooklyn, which I actually think is a very good goddamn movie. You know what I'm saying? Vampire in Brooklyn is a very good movie, but it didn't perform well. And I think it was after that, but just before Nutty Professor. So his career wasn't doing very well. Eddie Murphy took strong offense to that. He took strong offense to that sketch, to the point where I think he called the officers of Saturday Night Live and voiced his displeasure at that, right? And for the most part, since he left Saturday Night Live, he hasn't been associated with the show. I think he did appear in a 40th anniversary special or some special back in the late 90s. But other than that, he hasn't really appeared with Saturday Night Live. So over the years, over the decades, wounds heal. Maybe David Spade behind the scenes apologized for that. You know what I'm saying? And, I thought it was fucked up because, look, I don't see them casting shade at Mike Myers, because Mike Myers' career pretty much fizzled after he had that that flop of a movie. I haven't seen Mike Myers star in a movie yet, but I never saw them cast shade at him. So why was everybody just so quick to fuck with Eddie Murphy? You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought that was some bullshit. But this has been a renaissance for him. And this past year, I saw Dolomite. Excellent goddamn movie. I thought from watching the movie, I thought the problem that I would have with the movie is that I was familiar with Rudy Ray Moore. And I thought that me hearing Eddie Murphy's voice would throw away from the performance, but I got over that really quick. Excellent movie. From what I understand, he's going to eventually appear in some stand-ups with Netflix. And now, this Saturday, Eddie Murphy is going to appear as the host of Saturday Night Live. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really like Saturday Night Live anymore. I think Saturday Night Live has gotten too political. Look, Saturday Night Live has always been political. They've always had political sketches. I get irritated at the Trump fans out there that always whining about them going after Trump. It's so easy. You know what I'm saying? But Saturday Night Live, Trump puts so much material out there, it's hard for you not as a comedian to go after him. But at the same time, I think they do it too frequently. And I don't really like a lot of the humor of today. I just don't find a lot of this shit funny. But they've always been political. You know, they've done jokes about Gerald Ford, Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush. Now, Barack Obama, maybe they did go a little soft on him. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they did go a little soft on him. But the thing about Barack Obama is he had one of those personalities where it was kind of hard to make fun of him and shit. But I do remember that sketch with The Rock, The Rock Obama. I thought that was pretty funny and shit, you know. But anyway, I haven't really looked forward to an episode of Saturday Night Live since Dave Chappelle hosted, and I think that was like the Saturday Night Live right after the election in 2016. So, but I think this might be one of the highest rated, if not the highest rated episode of Saturday Night Live in its history. It's going to be one of, if not the highest rated. I guarantee you that. Because people have been looking forward to seeing Eddie Murphy make his return, his triumphant return to Saturday Night Live, and give that man the respect he deserves. Because if it wasn't for him, like I said earlier, if it wasn't for Eddie Murphy, Saturday Night Live would have been canceled a long time ago. And if it wasn't for him carrying that fucking load for several seasons, all these other guys who came after him, you know what I'm saying? The late Phil Hartman, the late Chris Farley, Mike Myers, Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, you know what I'm saying? All these guys that have come after him, Norm Macdonald, Mike Myers, if I haven't said him again, David Spade, all of these guys, Daryl Hammond, Will Ferrell, Sherry O'Terry, all of these comedians that have come after him would never have had that platform to show their comedic gifts and to have the careers that they would subsequently have. So, you know what I'm saying? Everybody need to stand up and applaud this man when he makes his return. Because I'm going to fucking clap my goddamn living room. That's how much respect I have for Eddie Murphy as a comedian and as a talent. I think he's arguably the greatest comedian of the modern era. And that he's right up there. It's him. You got Richard Pryor. You got George Carlin. To me, and I would put Bill Cosby up there too. You know what I'm saying? To me, that's the Mount Rushmore. Cosby, Murphy, Pryor, Carlin. That's my Mount Rushmore comedy right there. Okay? So that's just my opinion. Tell me what you guys think.